Having seen none, I'd like to declare that a check number 312706 is payable to myself. Everybody okay with that? The accounts? Okay. We'll move on to the next item. If we have the next item of deputations, a request on a planning matter with regard to a public meeting and an application for an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for Thundering Waters Village. We do have a representative of the developer here, and there has been a request to defer this matter to a later date. Moved by Councillor Iononi, seconded by Councillor Fisher. Any discussions on the matter? Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, just a couple comments. Number one, the developer, I believe, has asked for a deferral to the next meeting, September 10th. Ms. Gilberti wanted that to be known. Also, just so people are aware what we did on this matter, because the deferral was coming, we did deliver notices to all the residents, and obviously it was successful since none of them are here in the council chamber tonight. So based on that experience, if we fall into a similar situation in the future, we'll try to do the same.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. I appreciate the proactive approach to advising the residents so that we didn't have people here expecting to have the matter heard and then having to come back. So thank you for that. Ms. Gilberti, do you wish to make any comment with respect to the matter before we vote on it?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Arafita for his prompt attention and his cooperation in having this deferral brought to everyone's attention, including the residents.
Good. Thank you. So we'll call the vote. All those in favor? The motion is carried on that deferral. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Clerk, could you introduce the next item on the agenda, please?
A public meeting is now being convened to consider a proposed amendment to the city's official plan and zoning bylaw for 8921 Sodom Road, and this is to recognize the existing Betty's Restaurant and to permit an expansion of the parking lot. Notice was given by first-class mail in accordance with the Planning Act on Friday, July 13th, 2007, and by posting a sign on the property in question. Anyone who wants notice of the passage of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment or to participate in any site plan process, if applicable, shall leave their name on the sign-in sheets outside the council chamber.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rafita. At this time, I'd like to ask the Director of Planning to explain the purpose and the reason for the proposed bylaw amendment. Mr. Darberson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the Council. This property is a Chippewa landmark that's known as Betty's Restaurant. The application this evening actually is a form of a housekeeping set of amendments designed to put in place the proper planning documents for a restaurant expansion and a proposed parking lot that was expanded. These are the subject lands.
Excuse me, can I have your attention, please? Thank you.
These are the subject lands. On the north, we have residential uses. To the south, rural and agricultural uses. East, Pat Cummings Park, and west, the stormwater retention facility. The proposed application has requested amendments to both official plan and zoning bylaw for a 2.2-acre parcel of land occupied by Betty's Restaurant. The purpose of the amendment is to consolidate the whole of the lands under one site-specific NC zone to recognize an expansion of the restaurant, which was approved by Council in 2005, and an expansion of the associated parking lot to its current size. This is the site plan for the project. You can see that the expansion of the restaurant facility is shown, and also this is the full extent of the parking lot. And both of these properties or lands would be all assembled under one consolidated zoning bylaw. The official plan designates the subject lands for residential purposes. This designation permits a neighborhood commercial facility, which includes restaurants. Expansion of the restaurant was approved by Council in 2005, notwithstanding that neighborhood commercial facilities are generally restricted to a size of 10,000 square feet. The actual restaurant size is 16,000 square feet. The official plan amendment properly recognizes the size of the restaurant under a special policy, and the amendment also recognizes that the parking lot associated with Betty's Restaurant has been expanded southerly on the adjacent lot, which is also owned by the applicant. The zoning of the lands are both neighborhood commercial in part and part rural under the Willoughby bylaw. The whole of the lands are requested to be placed under one site-specific new NC zone, and the zoning that was passed in 2005 we would be incorporating into this new zoning. The landscaped area around the parking lot, and including 33 feet wide strip along the south property line, abutting the residential area, will be secured in a bylaw amendment. It's our conclusion that the requested amendments are appropriate. The requested uses are in conformity with the official plan criteria for considering land use changes, and the amendments provide for a consolidation of the zoning bylaws and incorporate previous planning approvals that apply to the whole of the land. It's our recommendation this evening that council approve the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, which will allow the recognition of the restaurant expansion and the associated parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Darvison. Members of the public are advised that failure to make an oral or written submission at this public meeting could result in the Ontario Municipal Board dismissing any referral that it receives if the party has not made an oral or written submission at this public meeting. Council will hear from anyone other than the applicant who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaw amendment. Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this proposed bylaw amendment? Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this proposed bylaw amendment other than the applicant? If not, then council will now hear from the applicant or his representative. Mr. Bernardi. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, members of council. Unfortunately, the owners were unable to attend. Something about fishing or something like that.
And just for the record, Mr. Bernardi, would you be kind enough to give your name and address?
Jack Bernardi, 123 Parkway, Welland, Ontario.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, certainly, Mr. Darvison has presented a thorough overview of the application. I will be brief because I don't want to repeat what Mr. Darvison said. With this application, we did prepare a comprehensive planning report in support of the application, and we also submitted an environmental impact study as a result of the close proximity to Hunter's Drain. The proposal was assessed relative to the provincial policy statement, the regional policy plan, the local official plan, and zoning bylaw. The planning report concludes that the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the regional policy plan, the local official plan, and the zoning bylaw. We did receive correspondence from Regional Planning Department, and they have assessed this application and have concluded that the official plan will be exempt from regional approval. The subject lands are under site plan control, and an application to amend the existing site plan agreement to incorporate the additional lands and parking area will be submitted shortly. We've noted that the report from the city's planning department is in support of the application. We also note that the regional planning department supports the application, which we're glad to hear. And basically, Mr. Mayor, that's my presentation, and I'm prepared to answer any questions that the council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bernardi. Are there any questions from members of council? Councilor Fisher and Councilor Maves.
Thank you. Through you, I would just like to ask, parking spots altogether. I know you're asking for an additional 30 vehicles, 5 buses. Most of their business are buses. And I noticed also, now correct me if I'm wrong, you enter and exit in one spot. There is not an entrance here and one down the way as an exit. Am I right?
They'll be entering from the north driveway.
Yes?
That way they'll be able to unload, it's usually steamers, patrons, unload there. Then the bus will travel southerly into the dedicated parking.
Where does it go back out?
Then it'll go back out to the southerly access. There's an access to the south.
There's going to be one here at the south where
Yes.
the buses are to be parked?
It's just, I would say, just north
Councilor
of
Fisher.
the buses on the east side.
Yes, Councilor Fisher, if you just turn around, you'll see it's being indicated there.
Well, my drawing doesn't show it that way, so... So right here where the buses are.
Oh, yeah.
I see it. Okay. On my drawing, it doesn't really indicate it.
It may be difficult to see with the dimensions. It almost looks like those are parking spaces.
I know.
It's a little confusing.
Thank you.
Councillor Maves?
When it comes time, I'll make that motion.
Councillor Maves?
I have a concern about where that drainage pond is in proximity to the parking lot. Is that our drainage pond, city-owned?
Mr. Julick?
I'm just concerned if somebody gets in there and goes the wrong way or makes a wrong turn in the parking lot, they wind up in our pond. And I'm just wondering if there's proper...
Mr. Julick, would you like to address that, please?
Yeah, through your worship, it is a city property. It'll be a city stormwater management pond, and we'll ensure through the site planning process there's proper measures put in place to protect any wayward
I'm
cars.
concerned that there's barriers along there.
It looks like there's some curbing along there, but we'll look at some other measures.
Especially in the wintertime, I imagine that hill could get a little slippery and somebody gets the wrong way or steps on the gas instead of the brake. Thank you.
Mr. Bernardi?
Mr. Mayor, if I can respond to that, the drainage and the slope of the land is from west to east. So all of the drainage will go to the catch basin to the east, just before the driveway at the south limit, and then will flow into Sodom Road. And then the curbing on the west, of course, blocks any drainage going to the west.
Thank you. Okay, yes, Mr. Mayor?
No, it wasn't so much the drainage I'm concerned. I'm concerned about a car winding up in that pond. I just concerned about some barriers in the parking lot.
Okay. So, Mr. Julick, you can deal with that, okay? Councillor Fisher?
Even though I have not received a notice at my home, and I only live down the street, I think I will declare a conflict. Thank you.
So noted. Are there any other questions from members of council, Mr. Bernardi? Councillor Thompson?
Yes, does the application include a name change for yourself, or is that down as
There is an R missing there, Councillor Thompson. Thank you.
At this time, then, members of council, the public meeting with respect to proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment is now concluded, and I'd like to ask Councillor Diodati, move the recommendation, second by Councillor Pietrangelo. Any discussion to the matter? Having seen none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous, and there has been one declaration of conflict with Councillor Fisher. Thank you very much, Mr. Bernardi.
Thank you, Councillor.
Members of council, I have a couple of announcements this evening. I'd like to begin this evening by offering condolences to the family of Mr. Joe Bove, who was an involved member of the Niagara Falls community and past president of Club Italia. Also to the mayor of Niagara Falls, New York, on the passing of his mother, Teresa. Mayor Vincenello and his family are certainly in the mourning of the passing. There was a funeral service today I attended and expressed the condolences of our council as well. Heartfelt thoughts I should say, of the members of council and city staff are with each of the families as they mourn the loss of their loved ones. Moving on to other council business, I'd like to thank Councillor Vince Cario for your work as acting mayor while I was on holiday, and to the other members of council, thank you for filling in and attending various city events. In my absence, I very much appreciate your hard work. I'd also like to provide an update to the residents and members of council on the following important issues. As it was council's direction at our meeting of June 25th, I attended the July 23rd Police Services Board meeting on behalf of City Council to make a presentation regarding our concerns of a rumored closing of 22 Division of Police Station in Niagara Falls. The presentation highlighted that safety was a priority for both residents and visitors to our city, and that the police presence was extremely important relative to this concern. I asked for the board's consideration during their decision-making process that they would keep our council informed throughout their discussions, and I impressed our strong request that the process be transparent and that we be involved and our input be considered during their deliberations. The presentation was well received, and I'm confident that our message was heard at the board level. In light of the recent media attention citing a report that has not been shared beyond the board at this point, I trust that our request for continued discussions and for input on their decision will be respected by the Police Services Board. I'm sure that Council's aim will be to work towards the best possible outcome for the residents of Niagara Falls, and we will not accept a decline in police services in our city. In fact, we will fight for enhanced services to our residents. So I'm certainly concerned that this matter, and I read on my return that there had been a leak of the report, but we did stress, and I think you each have a copy that the clerk circulated to you with regard to the presentation, asking for the indulgence of the Police Services Board. Now, no report has been openly submitted. I did have a chance to talk to the chief prior and to the chair that morning, and they were discussing at that meeting, but at that point when I had made the presentation, the report had not been tabled in camera. Just a comment from Caroline Miller? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for going to make the presentation. Your office sent your speaking notes, and I have to echo they were concise, and they were exactly the point we were trying to get across, but I would say that I don't think they heard you. It was July 23rd. We're back to a secret report that the Police Service Board has that drastically affects the city of Niagara Falls, so we'll go back to the word secret report. I have a problem with the fact that one of our regional councilors sits on the Police Service Board and has a report since July 23rd that has said potentially Niagara Falls will lose 22 Division. I mean, I know that MPP Crater tried to get a bill through that said, you know, you're going to have more openness, accountability, and you won't have secret meetings, and he's still working on that. But now we're sitting where a number of people have a confidential report. We all deal with confidential reports, but we know it's in existence. They know we know it's in existence. It's front page in the newspaper. Have they contacted you, or has our regional counselor who sits on the Police Service Board on our behalf contacted you? And where do the lines blur? If you're a regional counselor and a Police Service Board member, where's your fiduciary responsibility to your municipality in regards to maybe the removal of the police station or to the Police Service Board? I think once we start spreading ourselves on appointed boards like that, maybe the role is not so clear as to who we answer to. So maybe we need to invite Mr. Smeaton here and ask him, you know, are you going to deal with this? He and I had an opportunity to speak with Chief Southall at their public meeting on Dunn Street at the Dunn Street campus, and I'll tell you, the residents there emphatically told Chief Southall that that would not be an option they would accept. Councillor Smeaton and I both told her the same thing, and that we'd be bringing it back to these councils, and I did. And I just don't, I think it flies in the face of community-based policing. You and I chaired that committee, following each other for a number of years, and while Niagara Regional Police is mandated to provide community-based policing, removing our police station takes us 50 steps back. It's hard enough to get a volunteer for community-based policing. Community watch programs, neighborhood watch programs are almost non-existent because you can't get people to buy in. It's very hard to ask for community buy-in if you're taking your detachments out of a community. So I think it's important that this secret or confidential document is provided to members of council, even if they'd had the courtesy to, if it's an in-camera and a legal matter, to bring it to our in-camera. But even that said, the residents have a right to know whether they can lobby the regional government and the Police Service Board to not remove 22 Division.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Councillor Iononi, we're having a discussion further on Thursday at 4 p.m. I'll be meeting with the Mayor of St. Catharines and the Mayor of Port Colborne to discuss this matter further. And appreciating the confidentiality that has to be maintained at police services, there is an oath that each commissioner takes, as you're well aware. I'm not making excuses for them, but I do anticipate that once the report is tabled, I've asked for the consideration to be given to us as a council to keep us informed. Unfortunately, there was a leak, I'm sure much to their dismay as well. So I'm not sure what their next course of action will be. We'll still stand firm in our position, obviously, but officially we haven't been notified, and officially they haven't released the report, so they haven't done so with the concurrence of their board. So I have to respect that, and I don't know who has a copy of the released or the leaked report. I know the press had reported substantial information about that, so, yes.
I don't know why you mean, unfortunately, there was a leak. I think it should have been made public to the councils who were affected immediately. To me, I don't find that unfortunate. You know, it's public money. It's public safety. But you made a comment in your remarks on best possible outcome. What would you, as a former Police Service Board member, what would you see as our best possible outcome? Because I can't see anything less than retaining 22 Division on Morrison.
Well, there's a number of alternatives that you may think about, but police presence is a big issue. When I sat on police services, and there are others on this council who've done the same, to me, police presence is important. I can tell you, if I visit a city like New York City at Times Square, I don't know where the police station is in New York City or at Times Square, but I can tell you, if I see police on the street, I feel comfortable. and I think police presence in one way or another is important. The question has not been answered by the chief. No decision has been made. I talked to the chair about the matter at this stage. They have a report that he says they're still costing out, and but there has been no decision, as I believe they've indicated to us. There hasn't been a matter that they've dealt with to say they're proceeding with or without the recommendations in that report. So we've made our point, I think, very clear. I think we can certainly emphasize the matter with respect to the concerns we have in Niagara Falls. We're going to be discussing this with other municipalities who have the same concerns that we do, or something similar in terms of whether there's a loss of presence. So, and I appreciate your concern about making our point. I think we did. What I'm trying to say to you is I'm respecting the fact that we made a presentation in a professional way. They listened. There were a few comments. Councillor Smeaton made a few comments, the commissioner, and so did the chair. But officially, I have not heard back from the board yet, and they haven't had a subsequent meeting yet.
So the board, in essence, makes a decision. That decision goes to regional council. Regional council.
The commission will make the decision. The funding has to be provided by council, but the obligation of the commission is to provide adequate and effective policing. And nobody has defined what that means. As much as the regional council has to deal with this matter and fund it, they really have no choice, because the police services board could actually go to OCOPS and request a ruling that the region be forced to provide the funding. We have made funding available. There's a block sum of money from the region that's sitting there. It's subject to approval on a how would you say, on a site-by-site basis. So there's funding available, but we haven't, as a council, approved. The decision hasn't been made yet by the Police Services Board. So I'm going to respect the fact that we made a presentation to the Commission and the Board itself, and that they would hopefully respect our request and come back to us with information when it's tabled properly. And I guess, from what I understand in the press, the costing is completed. So they're costing alternatives, but at this stage they haven't notified us as to what decision they'll go and what direction they'll go.
So if I understand correctly, you agree that they should not move 22 Division from Morrison?
That's right.
Well,
it may not be at Morrison that they have to spend money there, but I'm waiting to see. I'm not sure what their recommendation is.
I would say remove. Okay, then let's go to remove 22 Division from Niagara Falls, because I mean they are going to continue to have a tourism, a casino patrol in the tourism corridor, so the tourists will have their own mini little police station in Niagara Falls. So we can segue into the residents saying, we don't get what the tourists get. I'm speaking.
Yes, fine, but I'm not saying that. So
I'm saying that. I didn't say that you are. I'm saying the perception will be the tourism corridor will have a police station, and it's situated right down there on Fallsview Avenue.
No, it's under the bridge.
Under the bridge. But the residents are not going to have a police station, and I don't want to hear the argument about each individual car as its own little traveling office. From the calls I've got over the weekend and the comments in the newspaper and the emails that we're receiving, the residents want to make sure we maintain a police station here, not just for the tourist corridor. So I just want to make that clear.
Yes, and I think we all understand that the 22 Division currently needs a lot of work. And I think that whether it's rebuilt or whether it's replaced isn't an issue that I'm dealing with at this point. But as I said, I know it needs a fair amount of expense added. And if they can build something cheaper that provides the service that we need, that's fine with me as long as we have a presence. So just appreciate your comment.
A police station.
A police presence, a police station.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's fine. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Well, I saw this coming down the pike, and the reason I made the motion about doing a presentation, but I have no problem, because there's a process going, handling, if we had a committee of the whole item, we would be dealing with it, and I think there's a process that we have to go through here. I was a little disappointed, to tell you the truth, about the fact that there was not more statistical information in the presentation. I think maybe because there wasn't enough time to really research that. I was looking for a solid justification for a police presence here in this community because of crime statistics, the border community, and the visitation from tourism, which would certainly go against any other municipality in comparison throughout the region. I think what we have to do is to start the plan, and from here on in, I think we have to meet with our regional councilors and make sure that they're on side with the thinking, and everybody is totally committed to having a police station in the city of Niagara Falls. And in my opinion, to take it out of the downtown is going to sabotage any opportunity for any real opportunity to revitalize the downtown. Certainly with the existing situation in the downtown now, police presence is absolutely essential, and will probably be over the next 5 to 7 years if there is some kind of improvement and revitalization. I'd like to see, even if we have to have a professional to, as soon as we get the report, analyze it and get some strong, not just because, oh, we want a police station and we deserve one. You have to put up a strong case that is accurate, that is statistical, and that is solid to make sure that this is going to happen, because St. Catharines is saying the same thing, that, well, everybody wants a police station, and that's part of the problem with regional government. Everybody wants, with the parochialism, everybody wants it in their own backyard. But anyway, I think that this is just the first step. I think we have to be solid in our efforts. I think we have to have a strong statistical presentation, and we have to have our regional councilors on side to work with us. And am I optimistic with what I've heard so far? No, but I think we have to really put up a major fight, and it has to be one that is credible, and hopefully we can do that.
Thank you. I think as well our clerk would like to make a comment as well with respect to the report. Appreciate the efforts of staff in preparing the report. And Mr. Iafita, would you like to make some comments with regard to that?
Yeah, through the chair, just in response and almost echoing what Councillor Thompson said, I don't disagree with you as far as the need for statistics. In fact, what we found was about all we could find. I was part of the staff team that looked into this issue, and there really isn't statistics out there. In fact, even the tourism statistics, if you were to look at them in any great detail, the tourism statistics about surveys of visitors to the area are actually based on all of southern Ontario. They're not based on Niagara Falls specifically. They're based on the Toronto-Niagara area. So in fact, you could make the argument that Canadians who want to visit southern Ontario are more concerned possibly about safety in Toronto than Niagara Falls. And part of the point in the presentation was the fact that probably, the Police Services Board and their consultants have that information, and you're exactly right. Once we get what they have, then that'll give us a better idea of what to make our arguments on, or what to pick holes out of.
Yeah.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah. Thank you. If you want statistics, if you go through, I get it on my computer every other week from PKF, the consultant, indicating the statistics for visitation, the number of rooms rented, the costs involved. So that information is available through Niagara Falls Tourism. I think you can get that easily there. But the information that we need are more crime statistics, which I was more interested in rather than the tourism aspect. The number of car accidents, the number of break-ins, the drug issues as a result of being a border community. I think that's what we have to concentrate on. But I think as long as we're all joining hands and making sure we're working in a common objective to keep the police department and a building in our community, I think that's the most we can do, along with the statistical information and working together.
Fair enough. Thank you. Also, I'd like to just continue on, members of council as well. There's a couple of comments I'd like to make. I'll be attending the upcoming conference for the Association of Municipalities beginning this weekend in Ottawa, and I look forward to meeting with other members of municipal and provincial government from around Ontario to discuss important issues that face our communities. I understand that Councillor Iannone and myself will be attending to represent the concerns and challenges and views of the residents of our city, and I anticipate a very successful conference. So I'd like to just make you aware of that. I did request a meeting with the Minister of Transportation, Donna Cansfield, with respect to the issues on the 420 west of Stanley, between Stanley and Dorchester. I've spoken to her in the past, and we hope to have a chance to make a presentation to her with respect to some improvements along the median and along the road right-of-way that leads into our city as an entrance to the province. Also, just a few other announcements. Please keep in mind the 86th Annual Flower and Vegetable Show is being held at the Niagara Falls Library in the LaMarche Room tomorrow afternoon. I look forward to greeting garden enthusiasts from around our community, and I commend all of this year's participants and their efforts. Also on Sunday, August 19th, the Big Tomato Fest will be held at Queenston Heights and will feature excellent samplings from clubs and restaurants from around the region, as well as the events for the whole family. Proceeds will benefit the United Way. Thank you again for your time. And the next item on the agenda is communications and comments of the city clerk. The first one is the Arthritis Society requesting proclamation designating September as Arthritis Awareness Month and permission to raise a flag. Moved by Councillor Carrier, seconded by Councillor Maves. Any discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Next item is Niagara Falls Big Brothers Big Sisters requesting a proclamation designating September as Big Brothers Big Sisters Month and permission to raise the flag. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Maves. Any discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Downtown Board of Management requesting ratification for board appointment for the recommendation of council. Yes, Councillor Ioannoni.
I'm a little confused. I've never seen BIA come with us with a comment. On behalf of the nomination chair, please be advised that the Downtown Board of Management is assuming that Aaron Lichtman has resigned his board position. Has he or hasn't he? I've never seen that wording ever in a request to nominate somebody. Have they got a yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not just us that he walks out on.
We have a request for the ratification of the board. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Carrier. Any discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you. Next item is Project Share requesting a waiver of building permit fees. Recommendation for the consideration of council. Councillor Mace. Okay, seconded by Councillor Pietrangelo. Any discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item is a letter requesting compensation for a client for Mr. Ungaro for the information of council. Yes, Councillor Carrier.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have Mr. Bielich in the audience. You might want to make a couple of comments on this, but my comments or my questions were going to be to our Mr. Dulovic about this project. I would just like to know how we went about deciding whether or not we were going to close the road as opposed to keeping the road open during construction, if the neighbors were polled or talked to, or how did this happen, where this ended up being a closed road construction project?
Really?
Yeah, through your worship. One aspect of the road is closed. There's still access from the north to Mr. Bielich's property. What the problem is the depth of the sewer and where it had to be located. It's about 30 feet deep. And the way the construction method is, it's in one of the lanes of the road. They have to cut a bench out, have a machine go into the hole, and then actually dig the trench. So it was impossible to keep the road open and construct the force main that's being constructed out there. They're just, unfortunately, that's the way the construction method to employ in getting this deep sewer done. It was the only way it could be done.
Thank you. I happened to, on a couple of occasions, go by the site. There always seemed to be the one side open as the contractor's using the one side of the road, and then he's digging down on a bench on the other side of the road. Could we not have kept that one side of the road open with flag people?
And speaking of the contract, in order to do the work safely, they needed the road to be closed.
But if we had said you have to keep the road open and
well, when we looked at it, we just didn't see the option of keeping the road open for two-way traffic there. As I said, there's still access from the north to Mr. Bielich's property. It's just that the through movement's not there.
Did we bid it that way? Did we bid it knowing that we would close the road, or was
Yes.
this something that was arranged after the contract?
No,
was
we
left?
bid it that way, knowing that the road would be closed.
Then my other question was, during the downtime on the job, like on the weekends and things, I also noticed they're not working on weekends, or they weren't the weekend I happened to go by and inspect the project. Could it not be open on weekends?
That's something I'll have to check with our staff and the contractor, what would be involved.
I don't think that we want to get into the discussion on whether or not we are going to do any compensating of Mr. Bielich. That's between the staff and our insurance companies. I don't think we want to go there, but I just wondered on when are we going to be able to get the road open to get them back into business again.
I'll talk to staff and see if they can talk to the contractors about the feasibility of opening that road on weekends.
Then could I ask that you get to that and then report back to us at the next meeting?
We can make that a motion if you want.
Yes.
Is that a motion you'd like to make?
Yes,
Councilor
I would
Kerry?
like that
Moved by Councilor
report
Kerry,
back to us.
seconded. Is there a second to that? Councilor Thompson? And any discussion to the matter, first of all? Okay, to that point, okay, we'll just give you a second. Okay, to that point then, any discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried, thank you. Councilor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Dulovic again. I brought this up several weeks ago with probably the two properties, the one on of Mr. Village and also the one on Park Street, was between Park, Victoria, between Bridge and Park or whatever, a little bar there that was cut off the total winter and finally went out of business. The fellow approached me and said, what do I do? I just lost a tenant that's been there for the long term. How can we call a tender? And I went out and looked at the site this last weekend on Montrose Road, and you could get by there, but you couldn't get through up at the light. It's completely blocked off. Why couldn't you even just, with working with the contractor, put a temporary road off to the side around the working area and sort of work their way up to give the opportunity for at least traffic coming back and forth? Yeah, for sure, single lane. This idea, and if you're going to do this in the future, hopefully this information is going to be brought to council, that you're going to call a tender this way, where the road is going to be closed, where there are businesses there. I wouldn't know. You're going to lose your business. And, if somebody is going to be cut off for a substantial period of time, we should know when we're voting on a contract that we're putting these people in jeopardy of losing their business. So I think there's engineering can solve any problems. They're up in going to the space station, so at least we can put a road around a temporary construction site to keep traffic moving to save a business. The business is, and then we got people coming here wanting to get compensated. Maybe there was a way that they wouldn't have to even come here because they'd at least get some traffic through there. I think we have to know when there's a contract called and people are going to suffer as a result for a long period of time.
Mr. Julick, any comments?
Through your worship, all those concerns will be identified, will be addressed in the report that's forthcoming.
Okay. Councilor Maves?
I just have to declare a conflict as there's a pending insurance claim on this.
Okay, well noted. Mr. Bielich? Yeah, consent for Mr. Bielich to speak, moved by Councilor Kerry, second by Councilor Thompson. All those in favor? Well, thank you, it's approved. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, council members. My name is Sam Bielich. I live at 8163 Covington Square, Niagara Falls. I'm the executor of the Joe Bielich well, and I'm protecting the property that Mr. Thompson, as mayor, agreed on the sewer thing too, on the sewer issue, when he was mayor with Mr. Dulovic. We haven't got this in 14 years. We haven't got this written down in concrete paper. We've already been taken because they've already put the sewer in from the east. And when this deal was arranged by Mr. Thompson and my father and Mr. Dulick, anybody from the east or the west was supposed to join into our sewer. Well, they've got a new sewer going down now to the new golf destination of Grand Niagara, and we got, I call it stahooned by the city staff, because we should have got compensated. The sewer should have went into our pipe, and we should have had that letter 14 years ago, and we still haven't got to this date. And now, concerning the traffic, you got daytimers that travels there all day long. They're employees from the west, and then you got Crown Trucking that travels from the west. 18-wheelers coming up the construction site. So if an 18-wheeler can drive on Montrose Road and not come to us, but he can go to his company, which is Crown Trucking. Now, why can't they pass and take the concrete barriers off and have a stoplight there, which they did have in the beginning by Niagara Square to our place. They had a stoplight each side, one lane open. Now they got concrete barriers. May, June, July, August, September, October, the best months of the year to make your money. We're starving out there because the city is doing it to us. And as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Dulovich, if I was Croatian, sir, this would have never happened. That's the way I'm thinking of it, sir. Discrimination because I'm a Serb. Well, sir, I have to. Okay?
Okay, I don't think that's the case, though,
Well,
Mr. Bielich, but...
that's the way I feel, sir.
Okay,
That's the way, that's my feeling.
Well,
That's my feeling.
I'm sure that's the case.
We weren't even notified tonight. Neither was Mr. Ongaro notified that we were on the agenda. I just came out of frustration. That's the only reason why I came here tonight. We weren't even notified. Why weren't we notified that we were on the agenda?
Okay. Well, Mr. Bielich, I
There was
appreciate...
nothing, Mr. Dulovich should take great care of protecting the citizens of Niagara Falls and doing the proper thing for the businesses that have been there for this many years. And 14 years, sir, 14 years we haven't got the piece of paper. And Mr. Thompson was the mayor. He's the one that orchestrated the deal for 14 years, and you say I shouldn't... Yes, Mr. Carey, I shouldn't have went there, but I couldn't help myself.
No.
I couldn't help myself.
Let's just try to deal with the facts, Mr. Bielich, if we can.
Well, we are dealing with the facts,
We're sorry-
Mr. Celsi, sir.
We're sorry that this has happened, and we're trying to rectify the problem, so let's see if I can get some answers for you, and we'll go from there if you give us... Is there anything else you have to say?
Nothing, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe my son has something to say that runs the
Simo?
property and owns the property.
Simo?
You said it good.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bielich.
Thank you.
Mr. Carey, Councilor Carey, I should say, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could we get a report back on the facts pertaining to the sewer issue? Or would you like to address it now? I've heard it.
Yeah, through your worship. I mean, as I talked about in the report that you have in the from May of 2005, there was a problem at San Montrose Hotel back in the early 90s with their septic system, and they needed to replace it. So it was either replace the system or come up with another solution. And the solution we came up with at the time was to construct this crossing. I was involved with the project at the time. The city actually did all the administration, the engineering for this project. Didn't charge the Bieliches for it. The city did it. And all they paid for here in the $51,000 was the construction costs. That sewer was never sized to take in the Grand Niagara properties, that whole area, never sized for that. So for him to say that he's been cheated out of money is wrong. I find his comments quite offensive in saying that I'm doing this because he's Serbian and I'm Croatian. I'm Canadian. Very offended by those remarks. I think the facts are that we worked with him, with Mr. Bielich's grandfather, back in the early 90s to resolve a problem that he was having out there, because if I remember correctly, the septic system was going to cost him a lot more than what he paid to construct that crossing out of the QEW in order to service his business.
Councilor Carey?
Thank you, Your Worship. And just a follow-up question on, was there some kind of an intent that if other sewer was required in the area, was there intent that they would be compensated or they would be repaid for some of the money because someone else hooked up to the sewer? Was there an intent to do that?
Your Worship, there was an intent. Unfortunately, that's a legal matter, but that came up after the fact. I mean, the first issue really was to resolve their servicing problem there, to deal with the order from the health department in cleaning up the problem that they had out there. And I think it was as the project went on, it talked about, is there any possibility of getting some, recouping some costs in the future? But that came after the fact. And yes, it's taken far too long, but that's a matter I know our legal department is trying to resolve in the best way of doing that. Nothing's happened out there. There's still an opportunity, because the sewers that are being constructed out there right now is a force main. Those properties out there can't hook up to that force main that's being constructed out there.
So then if other properties close by or adjacent or whatever, they'll still have to hook up to the sewer?
Yeah.
Mr. Bielich?
There's still an opportunity that
So there's
they'll
still
try
an
to do something
opportunity to
out
have
there.
some offsetting costs in the
Yep.
future?
So
So
I
you're
think-
going to report back to us?
Yes, Councilor Carey, I think that's what we're seeking, the equity for Mr. Bielich in this case, and Mr. Dulovic, you said there is room to provide that equity to treat it fairly.
And I think that in all fairness, the intent was, there's just frustration here, so
Sure.
they just want
I
answers.
think that's obvious. Yes, thank you. Councilor Thompson?
Yes, thank you. My name was mentioned a couple of times, and I was actively involved with this, as was Mr. Dulovic at the time. There was a serious problem on the property with respect to the sewage system. There was a lot of work and effort put in to find a solution and try to come up with something that was going to be appropriate. The costs at the time were substantial. In fact, I just asked Mr. Bielich on the way in, somewhere in the $80,000 over a 10-year period, which is not insignificant with a small business in an isolated area of the city. The idea of, I believe, was a clause that's been around for a long time, that the city would endeavor to collect if anybody was hooking into that system. So far, nothing has happened, or no development has taken place where that has happened. And I have to have had half a dozen meetings with the family, along with appropriate staff, to try to see if we could get this moving. In fact, discussions with Mr. Beeman in the last 4 or 5 months to see if they could finally come up with a written document which would give them the protection that they were told that they were going to have 14 years ago or whenever it was. So I think you can try to put this in a report, but I think it's very simple. If you get the agreement, and if there is anybody that hooks into it, there's an attempt, or as the clause says, endeavor to collect if the sewer is utilized other than the people who paid for it and put it in.
I think that's fair. I think we'll have that report forthcoming to council, so we can assure Mr. Bielich and his family that we'll deal with this. So thank you very much for bringing it to our attention, and we'll see if we can improve the situation. Thank you.
Can I just say one thing, please?
Okay, sure.
The original cost estimated was $51,000. That was for a 6 or 8 inch sewer. Mr. Dulovic, my grandfather, and myself were standing out there, and my grandfather said, let's go underneath with a 10 or 12. That's how I got on my tax bill, $84.36 a year for special improvement with sewers. So that's why I came up with an $84,000 mark instead of a $51,000. I did receive a letter from the city stating a breakdown up to $51,000 with Mayor Wayne Thompson at that time, and we changed that around to ratify the change of the monies.
Well, let's see if we can get a full report, Mr. Bielich, and we'll find out, if there is a connection, what the proportionate cost may be, and return to you. So far, Mr. Bielich, just to confirm, nobody has connected subsequent to the initial installation. Okay? So just to let you know that hasn't happened, and the sewer that they're just talking about now is a different sewer altogether. Is that fair, Mr. Bielich? Okay. So if anybody does connect to the sewer yet, there'll be some equity to your family in return to your costs that you spent.
Thank you very much.
We'll work on that. Thank you very much. So, members of council, anything further with regard to this matter? Any pleasure here to deal with it further? We'll let the report stand as it is. Okay, thank you. Next item is the request for a curfew for youth from Mrs. Diane Glenn. Received and filed by Councillor Iononi, seconded by Councillor Fisher. Any discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. The next item is a correspondence regarding the state of bus shelters from Elizabeth Murray, and a response from Niagara Transit for the information of council. Receive and file by Councillor Peter Angelo, seconded by Councillor Maves. Any discussion of this matter? Having seen none, all those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, are there any additional items for council's consideration?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask for ratification of in-camera reports, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. A few items. Item number 1, council approve an agreement of purchase and sale from Loblaws Properties Limited for $38,000 as outlined in report L 2007-36. And that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement of purchase and sale, and the clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. Council approve the agreement of purchase and sale from the Optimist Club for $30,400. As outlined in report L 2007-36, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement of purchase and sale, and the clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. That council approve the agreement of purchase and sale from the Butera Group for $150,000 as outlined in report L 2007-38, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement of purchase and sale, and the clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. And the fourth item, that the city enter into a lease agreement with Stanford Medical Clinic respecting the city-owned lands on the former S&T property located along Portage Road for the purpose of physician parking in support of the city's physician recruitment and retention effort, and that the approval be contingent upon the terms and conditions as outlined by Municipal Works and set out in the report BDD 2007-03.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. A motion to ratify the in-camera actions Moved by Councillor Carrier, seconded by Councillor Mays. Any discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Move on to the consent agenda. Members of council, are there any items you wish to deal with separately in this matter? Move the agenda by Councillor Ioannoni, seconded by Councillor Pietrangelo. Any discussion? Councillor Thompson?
Yes, thank you. Through you to Mr. Dulovic again. The changes and the, looks like we don't have clear records of the sewer projects on May Avenue and Terrace, and the changes are there. Is there any particular reason for that substantial increases because of unknown sewers and the connections there? Is there an explanation for that?
Mr. Dulovic?
Yeah, through your worship, as with any project of this size and complexity, they started getting into some works. Unfortunately, and the information that we had, that the region had, was incorrect. And then as they actually started going out in the field and started doing the work, there had to be in-field changes. And as a result of some of these changes, it required other work to be done that came after the fact. And that's why there were some additions that needed to be done on May and Terrace Avenue. And what we thought we could do, we realized that what we couldn't do, and we had to make some changes out there. So we want to incorporate this work while we're still out there working and not call a separate tender. And then, have the work done and then inconvenience the public out there again.
Let me get this matter wrapped up. It's been ongoing for a long period of time, as Mr. Members of Council, as you know, so it'll be a matter of having a few more months, I guess, that they, later early fall, this will be done? Okay, so that's fine. Councilor Carrier?
Just to follow up, I had a note on that as well. The $200,000 in extra associated engineering cost for that project, Mr. Dulovic, is that just for that project?
Through your worship, it's for all the changes that have had to have been done out there, not just for the main Terrace Avenue. It's all encompassing.
Okay. Does that answer the question then? Okay. So we'll move we have the recommendation before us to accept the matters on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. I'm going to request as well, whether there's anyone present who has an interest in respect of the bylaws on the purchase of lands, bylaws in the matters that we've just dealt with, and also the upcoming bylaws for approval tonight. I don't see anyone here present this evening, so I presume there's no one here that has an interest in respecting the following purchase of land bylaws that we're about to deal with. So, Mr. Clerk, if any additional bylaws?
No.
Okay, then can I have a motion to introduce the bylaws and bylaws to give a first reading? Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Diodati. We have heard the motion. Any discussion or comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried.
Bylaws 2007-166 to 2007-173, read it first time.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to give the bylaws a second and third reading? Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Diodati. Again, you've heard the motion. Any further questions or comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Bylaws 2007-166 to 2007-173, read a second and third time and passed.
Thank you very much. Members of council, under new business, I know there are a few items that could just present the fact that there was a request to cancel the meeting of August 27th later this month. This agenda here has been fairly light, and that means the next council meeting would be held September 10th. So there was some informal discussion that we had. Does anyone present like to make a motion with respect to that? Cancel the meeting of August 27th. Councillor Diodati, seconded by Councillor Carrier. Any discussion to that? Having seen none, all those in favor? Please raise your hands. All those in favor? Any opposed? One opposed? Okay. Motion is carried. Okay, thank you. Other new business. Councillor Ioannoni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last council meeting, I made comments in regards to the people mover, and I'd like to go back to that. I've been watching the Toronto Star. I'm sure everybody has the problems Toronto's having, and Mayor David Miller and the tax increases that were turned down and the potential cuts in services that are coming forward. And I kind of equate that to what we may be facing when we get reports that say we have $100 million in road repair, we have $100 million in sewer and infrastructure repairs. And I'm wondering, well, you made a comment that the people mover isn't dead. What is dead in regards to the people mover system was the monorail idea. If I remember correctly, the last update Mr. Lustig gave us, we had moved on to a rubber tire system. So I asked myself, why are we holding on to railway land that cost us $18 million that was supposed to be the line for the monorail? if we're not using a monorail system anymore. And if we're going to a rubber tire system, I'm assuming we're using the road, albeit whether it's going to be the Grand Boulevard or whatever it's going to be. I don't understand why, when we have a financial crunch, and while we argue on trying to get the lowest tax increase to put the most money into our infrastructure, we aren't sectioning off and selling that land. Are we going to get an update for the people mover system anytime soon? I mean, it's 7 years now. Either we're doing it or we're not doing it. Either we need that land or we don't need that land. If we're rubber tire, I don't know why we need it. And couldn't we sell that land and put that money back into the city coffers to do roads, sewers, waters that we all promised that we'd do? Where are we sitting with that?
Are you asking a question now?
I'm asking a question.
Okay, so we're not going to debate this matter, but as you know, I co-chair the
This
committee.
discussion.
I co-chair the committee with the chairman of the Niagara Parks Commission. There have been numerous meetings with stakeholders and staff. We had attempted to set up a meeting about 3 weeks ago that unfortunately couldn't been coordinated with time schedules on a number of people's schedules. So we should have a report by September. Staff has done a considerable amount of work, and the whole idea behind the people mover system, as you remember, and I call it, there's a lot of weariness, I guess, in respect to this matter because it's been dealt with, as you say, for 7 years. We have confirmed that there's still $25 million in federal money sitting there for this project alone, only if the project is dealt with in respect to the original people mover. We have partners in this matter. We're dealing with stakeholders, the public in general, business people as well that are being affected, but we also have the Parks Commission, we have the casino itself, and we also have falls management. So there's a number of issues that are being dealt with by those individuals. I think it would be premature to make a decision. That's why I was saying to you, and you made the comment that it was dead, and I qualified the matter. We haven't had a report back to that effect to council. We'd like to be able to come back to you, but we're in the final stages of having a meeting that will allow us to come back to council to give an update as to where we sit. As you know, we've retained the services of many consultants. In particular, Mr. Lustig has been working on it, and I can guesstimate that he's probably had some 140 or so different meetings, I think, with stakeholders, and it's just it's been a very long, tenuous situation. What I'd advise the council is to please allow the report to come forward. I believe it should happen sometime in September. We are endeavoring to get all the concerns, the major concerns of the stakeholders as it sits now to be in a concise report, and we hope to come back to council to seek your direction, as well as the Parks Commission will go to their commission to get direction from their prospective commissioners. The casino, which is the old G actually, and also falls management are involved. So it's not dead. The report, it would be premature to dispose of any land or think of disposing of any lands at this stage, in my opinion. And certainly we have an investment in that land that we had purchased with total three partners. The funding was provided for, and so we have a secure investment there, I believe. So once you have all the facts presented to you, I think you can make an enlightened decision at that point. So that's my response to Councilor Ioannoni's comments and respect to that.
Thank you. My concern is not for the stakeholders you mentioned, because I don't think they're the biggest stakeholders. It was no public secret that I was opposed to the $18 million spent when we bought the railway. I mean, that's water under the bridge that we actually still own from the purchase of that railway, I might add. But I'm more looking at, there were so many comments made after that everybody read, that we would be able to recoup that money, that we would be able to parcel off that land, that we'd be able to sell it. We're asked everywhere we go what's going on with the people mover, what's going on with the Grand Boulevard. When are we going to get a return back for our money? I think if we're going to be responsible after September, and we aren't any farther than we were 7 years down the line, then we have to look at an alternative revenue source. And if those lands are a secure investment, as you say, well, we have consultant report after consultant report telling us, spend money now. Either we'd have to tax to death to do it, or find another revenue source. I think this is an excellent revenue source. We promise, remember, certain people promised that years ago, just wait, and you'll get your return on investment, and the residents are still waiting. I just think if we're going into a budget deliberation, we're not doing a monorail, that rail land is no longer what it was intended to be when the pitch was sold to everybody else. I think it's a prime opportunity and one council really needs to consider.
Well, let me explain. That land isn't just suited for a monorail. We talked about people mover being a monorail, that the ridership study that was undertaken at a cost of some $500,000, paid for by Falls Management, which is part of their agreement, showed us that the revenue from the system couldn't justify the capital cost of the construction of a monorail. So we looked at revenue of about $25 million. In the industry, a 20% figure is used in return on investment for, we have a short list of 3 proponents, and if you just figure the math out at 20%, it means that you'd be looking at about a $125 million project. And there's no way you can build a monorail from the points we're talking about along the length of the corridor for $125 million. And that's why we looked at the fact that it wouldn't be a monorail, it would probably be something reduced on either rubber tire or rail, and we have yet to see that technology come forward. We're at the stage where if we go ahead to prepare an RFP2, the process will involve going to the 3 proponents that have been shortlisted and giving them a proposal or issuing an RFP where they can come back to us with a proposition and they can tell us what technology is available that would suit our needs. So we're in the middle, or towards the end, I should say, of the process in terms of determining where we sit. And as I said, I think it would be premature. The investment we made in the land and acquiring a corridor is invaluable. And that corridor, as you know, goes right through the heart of the tourist district. It certainly is secure in its investment, in my opinion, in terms of value. If anything, the properties have appreciated. And the sum of the parts is going to be much greater than the sum of the whole, as you can well appreciate. But that doesn't justify that we would sell the corridor. We have a Grand Boulevard to deal with yet. We haven't dealt with that matter. Whether some of those lands may include that, it's still very premature. I'm not sure if staff wishes to make any comments. Mr. Dulick, do you have any comments to make with regard to some of the things I've said this evening?
Through your worship, as you said, I know there has been work done, and staff is trying to get another meeting going to deal with what are the next steps for the Grand Boulevard, people mover, and to resolve the Grand Boulevard issue. Those issues do need to be resolved, and council does need to make a decision on how we're going to go forward.
So, and I would suggest, and I concur with your comments, Councillor Ionone, that people are weary because it's been so long, and we hear about it from time to time, but there has been so much work, so much money expended by others, part of their agreement. I'm not feeling sorry for FMC or others who spent probably $1.5 million and others. A lot of meeting time, and at the same time, I just say to you, please bear with the process. It's late. We should have a chance to finally conclude the report that would come to council, I believe, hopefully sometime in September or late September. So, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I have a couple of other matters, but I can't help jumping in. You know, and I hear the comments about the people mover. We're on the verge now of finally, hopefully, calling an RFP. It's not going to be a rubber tire. Mr. Lustig didn't say that. That's going to come out of the 3 consultants who have been pre-qualified to see what their bids are, and it could be anything from a rail up on top of the escarpment only. It could be a loop system, could be a rubber tire system. We won't know until we find out what the 3 pre-qualified developers or manufacturers are going to come back with. And I keep hearing the $19 million. There was $22.5 million that was received from the casino, the Falls Management Company, and the provincial government. And what a great investment when somebody else pays, and our investment was $13.5 million, and we had to guarantee the bridge situation for $4 million, but I'm sure that nobody is going to be stupid enough to tear down an asset which is sitting right here and hopefully could be the savior of a lot of problems of crossing over the bridge. So I made the same motion several months ago about bringing a report back, and if we weren't going to do anything, let's get on with selling the property, hoping that it would stimulate some activity and make sure that we had a report back, and hopefully somebody is steering the ship with this and make sure it gets moving, and we have something happening where we can at least see where we stand. There may be a go, no-go decision that has to be made by this council, but that's not going to happen until we get the RFP. Anyway, I want to follow up from the comments about infrastructure. I've been talking about for years about a pay-as-you-go system, and we had going here for many years, and became very concerned about the escalating debt and how municipalities are almost in an impossible situation today to try to survive with the residential tax base that they have to live with. And now we can see that that's almost an impossible situation. And people who make comments about we're going to move more quickly with our infrastructure, well, all you're talking about is substantially increasing taxes, because the only way you're going to do anything with the infrastructure is to spend the taxpayers' money. And they don't have that kind of money, and the taxpayers can't afford it. So anybody talking about solving the infrastructure problem is not being honest and truthful with the taxpayer. In 30 years from now, we're going to have the same problem, if it exists today, our tax base, the same problem in 30 years from now that we have today. You can do as much as you want, but you're not going to solve the road, the sewer, the water, the combined sewers, all of the other problems without $150 million of spending. So what does that mean? Where are we going with this? Well, I think that in my term of office here as mayor, and Mr. Burden was around at the time, we had a common sense revolution where the government in Ontario downloaded everything to the municipalities. Mr. Burden, just a yes or no, I think at the time we were getting, in fact, got cut off with $5 million worth of subsidies as far as municipalities. And that's just not just Niagara Falls, that's every municipality in Ontario had all of their subsidies cut out. And so that's when we started going down the slippery slope with respect to infrastructure and all of the other problems that we're experiencing today. And why do I bring this up? I bring it up because this is an extremely crucial time. We have a provincial election coming up, and the Tory government downloaded everything, and I'm not going to be partisan here. Over the next 4 years, the Liberals have had the opportunity to give it back, to change it, and yet still nothing has changed. We are in a serious problem as we stand, and this is the time now to exert the appropriate pressure to find out what our local members of provincial parliament feel, what they are going to do to help municipalities in their struggle with infrastructure and the other problems. I can just in the environmental end, we used to get 50% subsidy for every sewer, for every water main, for every road construction, for every sewage treatment plant. We used to get 50% subsidy. They've downloaded at the region to the health department with the costs involved, the social services, the public housing, social housing, transit locally. We used to get 75% for buses and for buildings. We have a building that is deteriorating on Bridge Street, and there's no way that the municipality can afford to build a brand new building without having the cost sharing. So we get a little bit of a bone every once in a while thrown to us regarding the gas tax, which does little or nothing to help us with respect to that. We had downloading, which really affected this municipality with the hotel safety from the fire department, where we became responsible, and with the number of hotels we have here, it affected us far more than anybody else. Certainly, we have an opportunity now to say to our members of parliament, and I'd like to make a motion in a few minutes to ask the council to have the staff make up appropriate questions to have responded to by our local candidates to see what we can do to offset the difficulties that we're going to have with respect to our future and infrastructure and environmental and all the other concerns that we have, because we're not going to solve our problems. We're not going to, in fact, it was just said over here a few minutes ago, we have to have a new funding base. We have to have a new funding base, or we have to get uploaded from the province and take away all of these responsibilities of serious costs which were downloaded from us before. And, you know, I can see it coming, just like I could see a couple other things on tonight. Toronto is over there. They're in serious problem, millions of dollars, and they're laying off policemen, they're laying off firemen, they're doing all kinds of things to cut back. What are they doing that for? They're putting the pressure on the province right at the appropriate time. So they're going to be getting millions of dollars and all kinds of promises about what they're going to do to solve the problems in Toronto. And who's going to pay for that? City of Niagara Falls and all the other municipalities are going to be subsidized what goes on in Toronto. And we always hear, well, the taxes are cheaper in Toronto than they are in Niagara Falls. Well, let's let them raise their taxes over there for a while to try to get around that problem. I think this is a great opportunity to find out what's going to happen in the next 4 years, and we have to have some changes, or we're going to be in serious trouble with serious debt, serious tax increases, and we're not going to have any problems with it. So I'd like to make a motion that we have our staff prepare questions regarding the downloading that happened previously. Mr. Burton knows them all off by heart, and see if we can't get some responses that are going to save not only this municipality, but every municipality in Ontario and every region should be doing this at this particular time to find out who is going to govern us in the next 4 years and what are they going to do to get municipalities out of the financial bind and the infrastructure. You've all heard it. What are you doing about the roads? Oh, we're going to put on a special push to fix our roads. What can you do? How much have you increased in the last few years in your budget for infrastructure? Pretty insignificant. Is that right? Mr. Dulevic, sorry.
Mr. Dulevic?
Your Worship, there has been in the last couple of years some significant increases to the roads budget. However, as been identified, there's still significant deficiencies that need to be addressed.
That's a fair comment. Anyway, I would like to make sure that we find out where we're going with this, that we ask these questions, and these same questions could be taken to AMO. You're going to have the opportunity to meet with some of the members of Parliament over there and ask them what can municipalities expect with a provincial government in the next few years. So I have one other thing I want to make a comment on after, but
I'd like seconder to Councillor Thompson's motion, Councillor Iannone. Any discussion on the matter? Yes, Councillor Maves.
I like the motion. The only thing I don't like is the fact that these people can say all they want to get elected, but I'd like to see them become accountable for what they say. Is there some way we can also put that in your report? Because they can feed us all kinds of baloney, but when it comes down to being elected, they don't fulfill their promises.
Unfortunately, Mr.
Sorry, but I mean, you can ask for all the questions you want and get all the answers you want, but if you don't fulfill their promises, I'd like to see some accountability somewhere in this motion.
I think the voters have a chance to express that at the polls, but they have to be able to be, candidates have to be able to be credible and be able to enforce the requirements of the requests and the promises. But I appreciate your comment anyways. We have a motion before us, members of council. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Thompson, you have something else?
I'm not sure whether...
We'll just make sure that the last question will be, will you lie to get elected?
That's embarrassing. Not for me. Anyway, the other thing is, I have some strong feelings with respect to the comments that Councillor Puttick has been making at the Regional Council with respect to the economic netco and the economic development and tourism that's going on there and what is happening throughout the region. Apparently there are discussions going on to come back to Regional Council with respect to what is going to happen in the future. I'm surprised that Mr. Filicetti is not here. He was there earlier. And I wanted to ask him the question, In fact, I did ask him the question earlier, what do you get, what benefit do you get from the NETCO at the region? And he said to me on numerous occasions, well, I don't want to quote, I've heard that there is very little contact with respect to it. We pay 30% of the budget at the region going into the Economic Development Department, and we get very little in return. And I have a serious concern about some issues with respect to tourism. In my other role with Niagara Falls Tourism, we're certainly trying to do what we can to bring people in the area, and there seems to be some counterproductive efforts that I might get into some other time, but not going to try to stay on a positive vein right now.
Councilor Thompson, just to try to deal with your questions one at a time, there is a MOU of memorandum of understanding that we're dealing with right now. The EDOs and CAOs were dealing with this. We have had one presentation to NETCO with regard to this matter, and most recently, I believe, Mr. Burton attended the last meeting in the absence of our CAO. Mr. Burton, do you want to give us an update on the MOU as it sits with regard to the 5 EDOs and the relation we have with the...
I'm glad you mentioned that, because through you to Mr. Burton...
Well, just hang a second, please.
I had the floor. I'm speaking. I want to talk to him.
We're going to get your
question. I'm going to ask him a question.
We're going to get your question
because the reason I'm up here today is because I understand he's writing a report.
Well,
and he's writing a report.
He's the last one to attend the meeting.
Yeah.
And he'll give
Are you writing a report, Mr. Burton?
Mr. Burton?
Your Worship, the region is actually writing a report. The report is covering a memorandum of understanding that was developed by the 5 economic development officers together with their CAOs and their mayors. Actually, this particular MOU was presented to the NEDC, to which they created some amendments. Those amendments were vetted with the EDOs. Unfortunately, they were not acceptable. The MOU was redrafted for about a 3rd time and has since, I believe, going to be submitted to the NEDC. This is by no means the end of the matter. The region has prepared a draft report about the MOU, and staff have been encouraged from each of the 5 municipalities to use the region's report or write their own with reference to the MOU to their respective councils. To date, our CAO, John McDonald, has not given direction on that matter.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Burton.
Thank you. And that's exactly what I'm saying. There's a meeting with the mayors and the CAOs and the economic development, a memorandum of understanding. When does this council find out what's going on? I'm very unhappy with what I see happening, with the money we're spending and the return on investment. It's ridiculous what's going on here. Our economic development officer says he never hears from the region. Oh, there's been a little more stimulation now because of the fuss that's being made at the region. And there's a memorandum of understanding. What do you know about it? Nobody has a clue what's going on. And it wasn't even coming back to the municipalities, to the cities, to have input into that.
Well, that isn't quite correct. I want to just clarify so you get the facts straight. What happened was the CAOs were meeting initially on this, and Mr. Trojan, being from the region, was tasked with the matter to meet with the CAOs and then involve the EDOs. And so right now, because Mr. Trojan had been away at the last meeting, there was a report that was forwarded on to NetCorp in his absence, which shouldn't have gone until he had a chance to review it. Mr. Burton has attended on behalf of the City of Niagara Falls, most recently in the absence of our CAO, who's been on holiday. There will be a report coming back to you, hopefully with regard to that. Once the region finalizes through Mr. Trojan, it'll come back through our CAO to this council. And what we're trying to expect, Councilor Thompson, is that we will work together on a mutually acceptable basis with NetCorp so that the EDOs will know what to expect, NetCorp will know what we expect as a municipality. So that hasn't been completed yet. So that's what I was trying to share with you, in the fact that the The CAO from the region had been on holidays the last time this matter was dealt with, and now has since returned and has met with Mr. Burton, and our CAO has been on holiday. So it'll be coming forward through 5 different EDOs that will be dealt with, those who have EDOs. Every municipality does
Through you to
that.
Mr. Burton. Mr. Burton, did you have a discussion with Mr. Councilor Puttick about this?
Mr. Burton?
Through your worship, Councillor Puttick did call about the matter. He was concerned that there was a difficulty in creating the MOU and finding agreement on several of the different terms. It's a matter between a regional economic development versus 5 different local economic development agencies, and trying to come together on what would be the shared service, what are the expectations between the 2 levels of government economic development corporations.
And when did you say it was coming back to the local council?
I said that we have not yet received direction as a staff from our CAO to prepare a report. I was informed by Mike Trojan, the CAO of the region, that we were welcome to use their report in the event that a report is presented to the local council.
If it is given to the local, I want to cut this off. I want to make a motion that if there is any memorandum of understanding, if there is any discussion, or if there's any dialogue with the mayors of the other municipalities with economic development departments, that this council be fully informed and have input into that before any documents are finalized. Because this is an extremely, we're paying the freight up there, and what are we getting? I'd love to take the money that we're spending up there and put into our local economic development department, and we'd be a hell of a lot better off, I can tell you that. So I'd make a motion that this council be fully involved in this discussion.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilor Fisher. Any discussion to the matter? Having seen none, all those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you. Any other new business this evening? Councilor Diodati.
Thank you, Worship. I've got 3 items. The first is following up on a motion I made at the last council under new business regarding the numbered companies request. And we got a notice here from the clerk pertaining to the planning department. I just wanted to make clear the direction of the motion. It was said that requesting numbered companies that apply for various things through the city that do not submit their directors and or principals be required for reports and for applications. And we had a note here that if this would be voluntary. We're not asking that staff research this information. The motion was that the applicant would submit that information for a variety of reasons I'll talk about in a moment, that it's not voluntary. It's part of the application, and the way I read the motion is, and the way I understand it, I just want to be more clear, without which the application and or report would be considered incomplete and missing information to be considered. And I had a discussion with our city solicitor as well about the legality of this, and I would ask that through you, Your Worship, that he might comment rather than third party for me. But what we're asking for is the principals and or directors names be posted. And there's a variety of reasons. Biggest and most important, as far as I'm concerned, is openness and transparency. Even in the note it said some principals names behind numbered companies. And I'm not comfortable having to deal with certain situations when they're not upfront forthcoming with who they are for a lot of reasons. And one discussion came forward that we may be in a conflict of interest with one of the applicants and not even know it because we're not sure who's applying. And I think there's everything to be gained, nothing to be lost from this council to have this information. So I would just reiterate the motion that, again, the fact that we're looking for the numbered companies be a part of the application, without which the application and or report would be incomplete and not considered by this council.
Okay, you want to make that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, moved by Councilor Diodati, seconded by Councilor Ioannoni. We see our Director of Legal Services, Mr. Burton.
If I might just address the matter briefly. The proposal Councilor Diodati has recommended to the council as a reasonable request on behalf of council in the situation where a corporation applies. It's quite reasonable for council to ask for the directors and principals of the corporation to be identified. I caution that this will not always enable you to know who's actually behind the corporation, because there are various methods where the actual identity of who's running the corporation doesn't have to be publicly disclosed. But the parties that I just mentioned, the officers and directors of the corporation, are a matter of public record in any event, so that there should be no resistance to disclosing those. The other thing I would recommend is that the resolution not be strictly restricted to numbered companies, because there are other corporations that have a name, but you still might wish to know who the principals are. And there are perfectly rational reasons for wanting to know this, if only so that, as I was discussing earlier with Councillor Diodati, if you have a resident who's come to you and you want to be able to send them to a person, Mr. Jones is the guy who's applying, and if you want a fence, see Mr. Jones. It might save us a whole lot of bother. And, if you can go to see Mr. Jones and Mr. Jones says, yeah, okay, I'll go for the fence, then we're saved an appeal. It enables the negotiations to take place that council always promotes with the neighbors to try to resolve the issue. So certainly, if council finds the idea acceptable, it is defensible on legal grounds. I would just request that the motion be expanded to include all corporations, because just because a corporation has a name doesn't mean you're necessarily able to identify the directors and officers.
Very good point. Thank you. Councillor Diodati, you wish to amend your motion?
Yes, that's a good amendment.
Thank you. Son. Okay, thank you. We'll vote on that. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Worship. Two more orders of business. We were already talking about the province earlier and an impending provincial election coming forward. We realize that timing is important for anything to happen. And specifically, I wanted to talk about the casino, specifically Casino Niagara. I put together a resolution, and I'm hoping that I'll get support from this council. It's in regard to keeping Casino Niagara open. I've got a copy here of Niagara Falls Review newspaper from April of 2003. Headline, McGinty says okay to 2 casinos. He goes on record, he's in the picture with MPP Crater. McGinty credits local Liberal candidate Kim Crater left with pushing the Liberals in an evolution of our thinking. McGinty confirmed Monday that he would convert the temporary Casino Niagara into a permanent facility if the Liberals win the next election. Subsequently, they did go on to win the next election. So and I'm sure they're going to honor their commitment, but just to make sure that they are, or just to help ensure, I put together a resolution where in April of 2003, Dalton McGinty went on record in the Niagara Falls Review to say that he would convert the temporary Casino Niagara into a permanent facilities if the Liberals were to win the next election, whereas 1,500 jobs at Casino Niagara within the Niagara region are at stake, whereas there will be a major tax implication to the Niagara region in the amount of $4 million per year, approximately, and Mr. Burden confirmed that with me earlier today, whereas there will be an extremely negative ripple effect throughout the region by way of increased unemployment, lost confidence, and a negative message being sent to the businesses and financial community, and whereas there will be tens of millions of dollars of lost development opportunities, whereas prior to the upcoming October 10th provincial election, the electorate of Niagara deserves to know the official reconfirmation of the pre-election commitment from 2003. Be it resolved that we request Dalton McGinty and the provincial government honor the pre-election commitment to keep both casinos open by way of a long-term commitment to the continued operation of both casinos in Niagara Falls. And I would move that this resolution go to Premier McGinty, Deputy Prime Minister Smitherman, Minister Kaplan, Minister Bradley, MPP Crater, the Niagara Regional Government, and the 12 Niagara area municipalities as well. I would move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Diodati, seconded by Councillor Pietrangelo. Any discussion to that motion? Councillor Carrion.
Well, Your Worship, I'm happy to support the motion, but I was wondering whether or not you were going to fill in Alderman Diodati on what's been taking place, because some of the councillors may not know what's been taking place.
Sure.
Are you going to do it? Or?
Yes, well, Councillor Carrion does have an opportunity to sit on the committee. We do have an ad hoc committee, as you know. We have, as members of council together, we've sent a letter, actually a briefing which includes a detailed analysis of the impact of the loss of the casino, went to each cabinet minister in the spring. We had confirmations. You haven't received a copy of that. We've had several of the ministers respond to us, and those letters of response have been also in your packages over the last few months. I appreciate your concern, and certainly we have, as you know, engaged a lobbyist who's working closely with the minister and also with the OLG. And we've had a committee struck, as you know, of stakeholders that's met on a regular basis. We are prepared, and we've undertaken, we've met with different groups who will support the cause of a grassroots campaign, hopefully that we will lead as a council. It's going to be, hopefully, it'll start, if there is no decision, probably by the 1st of September, thereabouts. I think Councillor Carrio was at the last meeting, or close to the last meeting, and so we have a grassroots movement that will begin. We've contacted, I contacted the publisher of the Niagara Falls Review and also the Niagara magazine, I guess Robert LaPonce represents Niagara News. We've talked to them about joining us and getting our support from our constituents. Niagara This Week, getting our constituents' support as well, and to really make it a grassroots movement. We understand there are discussions that are taking place. As you know, there was a change of the CAO at the OLG. We've had discussions with the minister and the new interim CEO. She's in place, and she's working on this matter. It involves the tax implication, as you said, to the region and to the city, and we are expecting that there will be some discussions which will be concluded within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll know which position the government's going to take. So the committee has met. We're ready to proceed with a grassroots movement. Councillor Carey, do you wish to add anything further?
Only to let the other councillors know, and maybe the public at large, that the mayor has been working and has made many trips back and forth to Toronto to talk to different ministers and Mr. McGuinty, and everything that we're going to reiterate with our council in your motion, we've been doing for quite some time, and working very hard at it, and it certainly helps to have the motion from the council behind us. And
the motions of this council have been carried forward each time with our letters and our reports that have been made. As I said, a detailed package, including the PKF study, went to each minister, and then whenever we had a chance to meet with the ministers, we've always reiterated our points. But as Councillor Carrio rightly suggested, well over the last 2 years we've been making this approach. I certainly would not discourage this motion in the resolution, so I think it's good. It's only the beginning yet, because as you say, we had a government that said that they would keep 2 casinos open, and we all believe, and we know the impact that would have, a negative impact, and the wrong message would be sent. So for all the reasons you suggested, we have made those, as you know, over the last number of months and years, and so we're asking for that commitment. We're down to the wire in respect of their lease renewal, and I think they're having discussions with the landlord of Casino Niagara, and I think they needed time to conclude those negotiations in the interim, so they just couldn't make that decision saying we're going to extend the lease for a period of time when they haven't had the discussions that needed to take place with the landlord as the principal on the other side of the party, other side of the contract, I should say, and party to the contract. Councillor Carrio?
Just one other thing, Your Worship, to add to the discussion is there are many people in that area that have made significant investments in their properties, which has been taken over to Queen's Park on the assumption that the casino would stay open. So it certainly would be pulling the rug out from under those people who've made those improvements to their property, thinking that this casino was going to stay open based on what you just showed in the newspaper, that there seemed to be a commitment that it was going to stay open, and now we seem to be fighting. It seems to be a battle to get a commitment to keep it open.
Right. And as I said, each time we went, usually we had representatives from the private sector who were stakeholders making those investments, saying this is what they're prepared to do, given the fact that the casino lease would be extended. And we have pointed out that they could have those projects in jeopardy if they weren't successful in extending the lease with the landlord. So again, just to fill you in, we would hope that in the next couple of weeks there should be some final deliberation and some word from the provincial government as to what their position is going to be. And if it's in a negative, then we're prepared to begin the grassroots campaign. That campaign is going to be funded by the private sector. Those principals who are basically involved, and we hope to have a groundswell of local support because, as you say, Councillor Diodati, it means a lot in terms of jobs and potential. It means a lot in terms of investment in our city and the confidence in the marketplace, and also the fact that there's substantial revenues. And actually, we asked the Government of Ontario to consider the impact, not just from the sake of the operation, but the impact it would have in terms of the social impact, because many people are taken off welfare rolls and actually brought into the casino and given opportunity to work and given jobs, and 1,500 jobs is nothing to sneeze at. We've made a number of presentations at the region, especially more recently through Niagara Weeks, Niagara Week at Queen's Park. That was one of the 3 key asks that we made, so we're able to get that high on the agenda. And for every minister that was involved with the decision, we were able to make that pitch as well and give them a copy, or give he or she that copy of the report. But certainly the motion is not out of line, and I certainly entertain that. So we want to proceed with that.
Yeah, and I agree. What you're doing is great, and I think a two-pronged approach can only intensify.
Sure.
And we represent, especially this goes out to the municipalities of the region. We represent well over 400,000 people.
It's the entire region as well, Councillor. You're correct. And
has a big impact. Yeah.
I said to our fellow regional councillors that this would impact all of us, not just the city of Niagara Falls, and you're correct.
Yeah.
So sure. So we have a motion before us. Then all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Diodati.
One last order, Your Worship. While we're talking about the casinos, there's been a lot of discussion about why we have problems, when we have problems with the casinos, specifically this one, of, why they want, and when I say they, that could be the management, that could be the government, whatever you want to say, but why they would ever want to close one of the 2 down. I think part of the problem is there's some conflict of interest when one group operates 2 casinos. And my next resolution would be, whereas the advantage of synergies are lost in the environment of a monopoly, and whereas competition is healthy and it brings out the very best, I would resolve that we would request the government, as they're looking to extend and implement a long-term lease, that we request 2 different and independent management companies be selected by the province to manage and operate each of Niagara's 2 casinos.
Seconded by Councillor Peter Angelo. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Carriel.
I think that's also been considered by the government,
right.
And we've heard that it's been considered by the government. But I think that the people that run the casino now have a contract with the government that includes that they run all casino operations if they are in Niagara Falls. I think that's the way it is, but I'll certainly support your motion, Councillor. But I think that it's been looked at. And
Councillor Kerr is correct, and we could go on record again. There is a contract in force. We can't disrupt that contract. We're a third party. We're not even a party to the contract. But certainly making the point, as we have already, has been made, as Councillor Kerr suggested. But we're not.
Your Worship, and I agree. And I mean, nobody's ever seen the magic Holy Grail contract that was put together. We can only guess what's in it. But as far as good advice to the government, and maybe a direction that would help them in the future, they wouldn't have to have this debate. Do we shut one down, don't we? If you had 2 groups competing with each other, I think we'd have a far superior product than what we have right now. We have a good product. It could be a lot better if they were competing against each other.
Can't you add that all the rest of the hotels would be casino licenses?
Sure.
Yes. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering if we should refer this to the solicitor to get an opinion on this. I don't mind making motions, but if they're meaningless, then there is no opportunity, because this is not a unique idea. This has been looked at and discussed over the past many years, and there's a ironclad legal agreement, and I'd like to know what the agreement is, and whether we're just making motions for the case of making motions.
Members of Council? Yes. Councillor Wing?
I have a comment as well about the contract. I'm not sure that contract's really being followed. What about the tractor money we were expecting under that contract? I think it needs to be opened up and re-looked at. And I think that was a great idea, Jim.
Fine, that's great. Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Wing.
Yes, I have 2 matters. The first is I had a call from a lady on Malibu Drive. Since the habitat in the McLeod-Montrose area has been extensively disturbed over the last few years. Her neighborhood has had a very severe infestation of skunks. The problem is getting worse as they reproduce, and she's talked to the Ministry of Natural Resources. You cannot exterminate them. You cannot trap them and move them someplace else because of the possibility of the transmission of rabies. But that same possibility exists in the neighborhood. There's children there, they're outside playing in the early morning, early evening when the skunks are mostly active. One of her neighbors leaving for work the other morning almost stepped on one, was basically trapped in his house until the thing meandered away on its own. There's a really, really bad problem there. So I said I would bring forward a resolution this evening to the province, Ministry of Natural Resources, whoever needs to go to, that they permit measures to control skunk populations. And I'm hoping that we can avoid extermination, perhaps trap, quarantine, vaccinate, and release elsewhere can be done. I looked into whether or not there was any means of contraception like's been done to control Canada geese population. That doesn't seem to exist. But basically, there has to be some sort of tools that can be used to control populations when there is a severe problem of the type that neighborhood is experiencing at present. So that's my...
Councillor Wayne, who are you addressing this to?
It would be the province. I don't care whether it goes to the provincial legislature or the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Minister of Natural Resources. It has to go to somebody at the provincial level, and we need some sort of tools there.
Okay.
So that's my
So a
first
motion
matter.
then to direct our concern to the Ministry of Natural Resources, and then you have a seconder? You second it? Okay. Yes, to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we're not unfamiliar, you and I, with the problems of animals in people's backyards. We have Burdette Drive on the former Niagara side that the neighborhood is infested with rats. And they have tried every avenue, the public health, the Humane Society. They're praying they're not getting any help here. So when you get that infestation, nobody knows where to go. Your first instinct is to call the Humane Society, who tells you it's not their problem. Second instinct is to call public health, who tells you it's not their problem. It just snowballs on. So there's got to be somewhere we can direct a resident. If we can't do anything for them, so we need to be able to direct them to an agency that will help them. And right now, in the last 2 months, there hasn't been anybody that can help them.
Councillor, I appreciate your concern. We did have a chance. Our office has been dealing with this matter in the last few months, and yes, you were as well. And we have had discussions with the Niagara Regional Health Unit. I've had the chance to talk to the medical officer of health to ask her when this becomes an epidemic, at what point the region gets involved. And there is a point at some time that they do, but medical officers and actually the inspectors are out there talking to the residents, as you know, and trying to gather more information. It seems as though the source isn't exactly what the residents may think, and you've had this matter dealt with as you have in your neighborhood for the last several years, I believe. But we thought it was due to the vacant Niagara building, but that isn't appearing to be the source at this stage. And so we're still working with the health unit, and our office is pursuing it. So I appreciate your interest as well. So we have a motion before us then with regard to the skunk population, and we can deal with that. Any further discussion? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Anything else? Yes, Councillor Wayne?
My second matter is somewhat related. Council received an email over the last couple of days from a resident asking that we reopen our animal control bylaw and look at making the tagging or microchipping of cats mandatory. I don't know if I'd be in favor of that. I mean, we looked at this issue very extensively less than a decade ago. Alderman Janbury chaired the kitty committee, and I know I chaired a subsequent committee that looked at dogs and chickens, and we redid the whole bylaw then. What I think we need to do is resend a resolution that this council passed in the fall of last year to the Minister of Finance, the federal Minister of Finance. And what the resolution was that the spaying or neutering of cats should be made an income tax deductible expense. And I know we sent it off before, and we got a really ridiculous answer saying, well, like this is discretionary income. I'm sorry, but sports equipment for kids is discretionary income just as well, just the same. If we can give income tax deductions for sports equipment for kids to control a societal problem, obesity's perceived to be a societal problem, and sports equipment for kids is supposed to help address that problem, we've got another societal problem. A lot of people get upset about the numbers of cats that have to be put down. There's also a problem with feral cats. And one of the reasons we get feral cats is the fact that not a lot of cats get spayed or neutered. They have litters. Unfortunately, people let some of them go wild, just dump them off in the countryside, whatever. So we end up with a lot of feral cats, which are not fed well, which are not looked after, weak, disease, and then you get the problem of cat diseases being transmitted from them to domestic cat populations, and one of them, unfortunately, could be rabies as well. So what we really need to do is resend this resolution to the minister and point out that sports equipment for kids is a discretionary expense, just as this is. They are both intended to control societal problems. So I will remove my resolution from last fall that the spaying and neutering of cats should be an income tax deductible expense. And I should mention that our MP, Rob Nicholson, spoke with me about that. I believe that it was at his New Year's levy, and had indicated he had championed the issue with the minister, considered it to be a rather novel idea and one that would not break the bank, so to speak. So I know there is some support for it, and I think we really need to get it into place.
Is there a seconder to Councillor Wing's motion? Councillor Ioannoni, any discussion? I would like to support the matter too, and I say to you, in our further investigation, we have some major cat colony problems here, and there's nobody there to deal with this. There's no owner, there's nobody to get a receipt, even if it was tax deductible, in respect to that. So we have a problem where cats have to be secured, I guess, in some regard, and we have two or three major cat colonies that are just running at large. And that's a problem. So as you know, we're currently looking at a bylaw control for animals at this point, so hopefully that'll be taken into consideration. But I appreciate your concern about the matter. So we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Madam Chair, approved. Thank you. Any further business? Councillor Carrion?
Quick one, Your Worship, while you're away, there was a bear escape from one of the zoos. I'd like the council to be informed on what precautions are being taken. I know it's not in our municipality, but it affected our residents, and I got quite a few calls from people that were worried about, their close proximity to that is close to our boundary. Want to know what's going to happen, what they're doing to make sure that doesn't happen again. There was quite a substantial amount of our resources as well put to work. The fire department, apparently the volunteer fire department, the police. I don't know if any of our staff were involved, but I would like a report back to council on what's being done to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Mr. Bilowick?
Through your worship, I happen to know the owner of the zoos, and I was talking to him today, and I know they're making a presentation to their Fort Erie Council tonight. I will ask for that information as to what measures they're taking. I do know they're improving their security at their facilities. He did, tell me about some other problems that happened there, and they have to take some corrective measures as to procedures that they had that weren't being followed, and corrective measures were being put into place.
Councillor Carrio's request, though, is to ask, do we have any staff involved in this matter?
I don't know about staff involved, but I'm confident we can get information from the owner as they're making a presentation tonight to Fort Erie Council as to what they're doing to secure their facility.
Yeah, I think there were quite a few concerned residents out that way because it was a bear, not because it was a skunk or raccoon, because they were afraid. And
it is in close proximity to the municipality's boundaries out there.
Sure. Thank you. Anything else, members of council? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Maves, seconded by Councillor Pietrangelo. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.